If you're looking into what life is actually like down in these fast-growing Florida small towns right now, keep watching, folks. I'm Laura. Look, we all know Florida is famous for the gorgeous springs, the pristine beaches, killer boating, and having a backyard pool you can jump into pretty much year-round. Yeah, that's exactly the laid-back vibe everybody expects when they pack up and move to a quiet country town. But what happens when 50,000 other people get the exact same brilliant idea at the exact same time, completely overwhelming the local roads and pricing out the locals? Well, I'm going to show you exactly what goes down when that peaceful rural dream violently collides with a massive corporate reality. Let's find out. Number 10 on my list is Lake Hamilton. This town is an old-school Polk County citrus town that's rapidly getting swallowed whole by brand-new subdivision construction. The vibe here is a jarring mix of quiet, historic country living, actively fighting against the loud, dusty reality of constant residential development. The population is exploding here because middle-class buyers are absolutely desperate to secure massive, beautiful yards and decent square footage for a fraction of what they'd pay over in Orlando. This surge in demand means builders are rushing in to throw up houses on every single available piece of legacy farmland they can buy, driving a massive wave of rapid expansion. One local said it's bigger and has more businesses, but is very crowded. I talked to some local folks. They told me that the northeast side around Washington Street is generally an area you want to avoid if you're looking for top-tier safety. If you're looking for the absolute best spots, check out the neighborhoods immediately surrounding Cypress Gardens. It's incredibly close by, very family-friendly, and offers a ton of stability for your property value. The single biggest catch of Lake Hamilton is the absolute lack of autonomous commercial infrastructure. The town functions purely as a residential sleeping quarter. You gotta drive multiple towns over just to find a decent medical specialist or a large hardware store. Coming in at number 9 is the quaint town of Eagle Lake. This is a heavily commuter-dependent municipality perfectly positioned between agricultural zones and the expanding Winter Haven area. The vibe here is heavily car-dependent isolation, with a very strong focus on private, fenced-in lakefront acreages. The rapid growth is being fueled by families who are seeking property lots that are significantly larger than the cramped spaces you find in the bigger cities. The growth is spiraling out of control, hitting an insane 33.14% population surge simply because the middle class is being aggressively priced out of Tampa and forced to migrate out here into the deep interior. The problem is, this massive wave of people brought their cars, but nobody built any new roads to handle them. I talked to some local folks. They told me that living on the outskirts in Eagle Lake is fantastic if you want a full acre of land and 0 neighbors looking over your back fence. And one resident said it's not terrible. But they also warned me that the traffic infrastructure is practically crumbling under the weight of all these new commuters. If you're looking for the best spots to settle down, look at the established subdivisions like Squires Grove and South Shore Terraces. Next takes us to Minneola. This town is famous for having actual rolling hills, which is a massive geographical anomaly here in the flatlands of Central Florida. The vibe is aggressively upwardly mobile, featuring highly manicured lawns and endless luxury cars sitting in driveway traffic. It's an up-and-coming area. A lot of people are transplants. It's easy to see why it's growing so fast, because buyers are flooding in to purchase brand new, premium, master-planned homes with gorgeous elevated views that you just can't find anywhere else in the state. The growth became terrifyingly out of control the moment the state dropped a brand new turnpike interchange right in the middle of town, instantly unlocking thousands of acres of land for corporate developers to build over 20,000 new houses. Naturally, the local city council approved all these houses without forcing the builders to widen the roads first. The best spot is easily the Hills of Minneola community. It has a brand new K-8 school right inside the neighborhood and a very grounded, highly educated demographic. You absolutely want to avoid buying a home that forces you to rely on the older, two-lane sections of Old Highway 50 for your daily commute. Those roads turn into a complete parking lot every single morning and afternoon. I talked to some local folks, and my friend R. Martin is absolutely in love with this area. They love the new bike trails and the fact that a massive Crooked Can brewery headquarters is being built locally. However, they absolutely hate the traffic on Highway 50 and Hancock Road. Here are the numbers you need to know. Moving right along to number 7, I got Groveland up next. This is a town located deep within Lake County that's violently transitioned from a quiet agricultural hub into an endless sea of residential rooftops. The vibe here is restless suburban sprawl, filled with weary commuters who leave their homes before the sun comes up and return long after it goes down. The reason Groveland is firmly on the list is all about pure affordability. The massive influx of new residents is driven by buyers who are rushing to secure a massive, modern property for a price that would barely buy a condo over in Orlando. The growth is absolutely out of control, hitting an insane 120% total population spike over the last decade, purely because corporate builders bought up all the cheap dirt and started throwing up tract housing everywhere you look. The brutal reality hits about 6 months after you move in, when the tax bills start arriving in the mail. I talked to some local folks, and they told me that while they love their brand new houses, their property taxes and homeowner insurance premiums have absolutely skyrocketed. One guy mentioned his auto insurance doubled just by moving to the area, and the other guy mentioned very much an older population and an infrastructure, lifestyle, and day-to-day that's 10 to 15 years behind. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but unexpected if you're new to the area. The single biggest catch is that it's a complete economic desert. Those roads were built for tractors, not for thousands of speeding commuters, and they can be incredibly dangerous at night. Coming in at number 6 is Leesburg. This city used to be the historic heartbeat of the local citrus industry, but it's currently going through a massive cultural transition. It's a very strange mix of a slow-paced, traditional retirement haven violently colliding with young, stressed-out families looking for cheap housing. But it's no longer the cheaper place farther away to live. Still, for anyone over 30, it's a great place to live. It's very family-oriented, and there's not much nightlife or opportunities. You have lots of access to great food, fun things to do, close to the airport, Wegmans, great hospital, etc. You start to realize how ideally it's located to all these things if you look anywhere else to buy. You just got to look at the massive cultural collision happening right now. The population is swelling because a bizarre mix of an older generation looking for quiet lakes and younger families desperate to finally own a piece of affordable real estate are all moving here at the exact same time. The growth is completely out of control because developers are systematically paving over all the beautiful legacy farmland to build generic cookie-cutter subdivisions to meet this dual demand. This is creating a lot of friction between the folks who've lived here forever and the folks who just unpacked their moving boxes yesterday. I talked to the locals. They told me that the town has a great community vibe, a nice library system, and very low crime rates. Number 5 on the countdown is Haines City. Positioned right on the heavily used US 27 highway, this city has turned into a massive logistical and distribution hub. It's highly diverse, with thousands of freight trucks constantly fighting for space alongside regular commuter traffic. This logistical nightmare is exactly why Haines City sits right in the middle of fast growth that's out of control. The town is exploding with a 12% recent growth rate because it offers relatively affordable housing combined with an amazing cultural diversity that attracts families from all over the state. The city approved massive corporate distribution centers like the giant Aldi facility, drawing in thousands of workers without ever bothering to upgrade the local 2-lane roads. I talked to some local folks. They told me that every single time they drive down the main drag, they either witness road rage or almost get into a fender bender. It's incredibly stressful. Another resident said, "My last choice would be Haines City. I've lived in Haines City and I really loved it, but the city is very strict on code enforcement, so it's like living in an HOA, even if you don't." Moving down to number 4, I got Davenport on the map. This area serves as the massive geographic pressure valve for the Orlando tourism machine. Yeah, it's highly commercialized and extremely transient, meaning your next-door neighbor is probably going to change every 4 days. Davenport is a prime target of high growth, mostly because of the tourism spillover. The city is growing at a breakneck 10.58% annual pace because real estate investors are flooding the market, buying up homes and turning them into highly profitable Airbnb vacation rentals for the theme park crowds. The growth is totally out of control because this unregulated investor activity is completely hollowing out the permanent neighborhoods, driving up housing costs, and forcing endless new construction. I talked to the permanent residents, and they're furious. They told me they're sick and tired of the constant noise violations, the overflowing trash cans left by tourists, and dealing with lost vacationers wandering through their yards. If you want to actually live here long-term, locals highly recommend the northern zip codes, specifically 33837, because those neighborhoods generally have strict homeowner associations that legally ban short-term rentals. You absolutely must avoid buying a primary residence anywhere near the Champions Gate area. That entire zone is basically a decentralized hotel, and you'll never experience a single moment of quiet suburban peace. Number 3 on our list is Wildwood. This town is experiencing a completely unique phenomenon because it's literally being swallowed alive by the Villages, which is the largest retirement mega complex on the planet. I think it's a bizarre clash between old, rural Southern culture and a highly sterilized, hyper-conservative, master-planned senior citizen utopia. The area is experiencing hypergrowth because an endless wave of incoming retirees are moving down to live in a pristine, perfectly manicured bubble with endless entertainment and top-tier medical care. The growth is terrifyingly out of control because this massive corporate entity is violently annexing the surrounding agricultural land, bulldozing native ecosystems to build thousands of identical stucco homes and pristine golf courses to meet the demand. I talked to the younger locals. They told me that the area is very safe and quiet, but it's incredibly boring if you're under the age of 65. The political and economic landscape is entirely controlled by the wealthy retirees. If you're looking for the best spots, the newly integrated communities right on the border of the Villages offer amazing security and flawless landscaping. But you should absolutely avoid trying to raise a young family in the immediate vicinity of these mega developments. The cost of living is artificially inflated by all that captive retiree wealth. Coming in at number 2 is Freeport. Located up in the Panhandle, this town has become the primary commuter hub for the insanely expensive 30A coastal corridor. It's a small town, super safe, feels like a step back in time, for better or worse. It's a wild mix of beautiful old Florida coastal marshlands actively fighting against massive, aggressive suburban land clearing. The Panhandle isn't immune either. The massive population influx is driven by working professionals moving here because it allows them to enjoy the world-class Emerald Coast beaches without paying multi-million-dollar beachfront property premiums. The growth is completely out of control because developers are heavily marketing these affordable alternatives, carving up thousands of acres along Highway 20 and funneling tens of thousands of daily commuters onto a highly restricted, bottlenecked road network. I talked to folks living up there. They absolutely love the massive new neighborhoods, specifically calling out Hammock Bay as an amazing town to live. They mentioned it has a dope disc golf course, great sidewalks, and a really safe, family-friendly environment. However, they uniformly warned everyone to avoid relying on the Highway 331 bridge during peak hours. And finally, coming in at number 1 on our list is Westlake. Located in Palm Beach County, this municipality is an unprecedented experiment in modern corporate urban planning that's hyper-curated, highly regulated, and incredibly sterile suburban affluence. Everything is brand new, perfectly aligned, and completely lacking in organic history. It's pretty great. Good school system, and they are slowly building up the amenities. We recently got a Publix and a ton of gyms. The explosive expansion here is happening because buyers are flocking to get their hands on brand new construction with incredible resort-style pools and massive community centers in a region where new builds are extremely rare. The growth is so out of control that it's literally making history, recording a mind-blowing 21.57% annual growth rate as the corporate developer transforms old agricultural land into a densely packed concrete grid overnight. But underneath all that fresh paint, there are some very dark local rumors that refuse to go away. I talked to the locals, and while the new residents love the safety and the modern amenities, however, the long-term county residents are furious. They claim the developer used legal loopholes to incorporate the city and force massive amounts of traffic onto roads that were never meant to handle it. And the biggest, most glaring catch about Westlake is the absolute iron-fisted control of the corporate developer and the homeowners association. You're paying incredibly high taxes and monthly fees, but you have virtually no democratic control over your own neighborhood. If you're looking for the best spots, the central enclaves built directly by Minto offer the nicest facilities and the best access to the new civic centers. In the end, I will say, a cheap house is not a bargain if it costs you your peace of mind. Listen, folks, moving to a small town in Florida is not just about finding a lower mortgage payment anymore. It's about navigating brutal traffic, dealing with massive corporate builders, and trying to find a real community before it gets completely paved over by out-of-state money. If you got some value out of this IDEO today, please like the video, leave a comment with your own experiences, and subscribe to U.S. Historians so I can keep bringing you the unvarnished truth about these housing markets. I'll see you guys in the next one.